Hey everyone, and welcome back to Jirachi Cup 10. Continuing coverage of the group stage, we move now to Group C, I want to say this is? I can't actually quite remember. You were covered in mud. You mean like today, or when these games were played? But anyway, it's going to be between Houston, who's in the chat of course, and Sick IGN. Coalition versus Conef, fun matchup here. I've got the info.txt. Looks like Sick IGN had to pick first. Houston picked Conef, and Sick IGN is going to grab the Shallows. 2022. Okay, look, man, it'll probably be before that. All right, I promise I'll get around to it someday. Oh, jeez. Houston here retaining his base burner. He has probably the salvagers lined up for an SC first opener, if I had to guess. We will find out momentarily though. Sandscreamer Fab on the queue for. This is Sick IGN. Sick IGN going probably for an SC first opener. Sorry, my brain exploded. And Houston here does have Sandscreamer Fab started at a pretty early timing. Let's check the resources here. Sick IGN, for some reason, has had some trouble getting this timing on SC first lined up properly. So he does have it a little bit late here, like 2908, but not super late. This isn't exactly the very top level of play, so it probably won't hurt him too much, but definitely could be refined a little bit more. As for Houston, though, like I said, Sandscreamer Fab is done here, but he's got to go for some kind of a tech then. Think, because I mean obviously if he goes for ref mud, my eyes are gonna fall out of their sockets, etc, right? So that's what we hope to see. It looks like with the resources lining up here, it might be a soul chip tech. He has the money for it right now, but he has not made a choice just yet, and for the moment he does keep his base burner as well, so you're not that rusty. Good. Nah, Houston wouldn't make a mistake like that, never. So for the time being here, then, actually he's getting Fleet Cap 45 set up, but he has this base burner still. Not going to go for any tech then. I mean, he will have pressure on the extractions. This is some value that you get out of having that base burner in the opener. But it does slow down your tech, and he's going to choose to slow it down even artificially more by getting that Fleet Cap upgrade first. That means he banks up a lot of railguns here, so RUs here, so I assume he's going for railguns. You can see where my mind was headed there. It'd be nice if I didn't have Alzheimer's. Anyway, carry production upgrade is coming out for Sick IGN now. And this probe for Sick IGN finally going to be deployed, but it just instantly dies. It's kind of funny. You want to send the probe out sooner so that you can see that this kind of thing is happening a little bit faster. But the production upgrade is done, so he's going to be able to start producing, LAVs in response to these skimmers here. The question is how fast, usually anyway, how fast can Houston get his second PC up? He's got the money for it already. And he does have the fleet capacity upgrade too, but first he's going to invest into Railgun Fab. That's not a mistake, I wouldn't say. And these artifacts are spawned, so we'll probably go ahead and pick that up pretty soon. Could be a good opener from Houston, but he still has it all to do here. Of course, he's got to get the damage done. Right now, being a little bit idle with these sand skimmers, you want to actually feed in here. Oh, okay, you don't ever want to feed in. You want to actually go in here because Sick IGN only has like 2 LEVs. Yeah, he's got a little spot of high ground and he's got the Sport Cruiser, but you've definitely got the numbers on him here. This is 10 to like 4 at the moment it was. And a little bit more every day for Sick IGN here as he does have that production upgrade. This is why Houston really wants to get a second PC started as fast as he can, but that's the thing, is that you have a little moment of strength here when you go this heavy into the sand skimmers, and it fades as your opponent gets that production upgrade. So enough time, and Sick IGN is going to find himself just sort of passively getting ahead of this opener here. So definitely Houston wanting to be more decisive, but that moment may have already passed. Here's a turret getting set up for Sick IGN, wanting to defend the second base. The way these dunes are, it might not actually have line of sight, but it's uncertain, I guess I'll say. Uh-oh, skimmer armor. Well, I'll give you one tip, Houston. Although some people will debate this, but those people generally don't win. So I think that's all the credentials I need. The sand skimmer upgrades don't come out until that second PC is done. That's a really hard and fast rule to live by when you do rail rushes, because if you have 2 production lines, the upgrades are basically twice as valuable. In which case, they're fine, they're quite good. But when you only have one production upgrade, or one production line that is, you can think of these upgrades as being half as valuable as they otherwise would have been. Because yeah, it applies to all these skims, but you can only build them one at a time. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated than that, but... Nice engage here for Sekai Jin, by the way. He drives up onto the top of that little cliff. And just gets some juicy shots into the sand skimmers, kills one of them for free. We do have an assault railgun out here, which is why Sekai Jin's giving a lot of respect to Houston. And a heavy railgun done as well. This is what he needs to start putting some pressure on, but it's difficult because how does he maintain a line of sight here? These LEVs could jump up on his skims if he mispositions. Uh-oh, right now it looks like a bit of an F2 quick moment for Houston. His sand skimmers are all driving back to the base. And this leaves this huge vulnerability. I don't know exactly what Houston is planning here. If Sekai Jin sees what's going on here, and he does have armor too, by the way, so he's definitely got a little bit of beef on these LAVs here. He could just boost in and maybe even like kill off this PC. It looks like the skims are going to come back. That's what they need to do. Base runner just going to hide here in the smoke. I like that. Needs to be moving now, though. Yeah, and these skims are going to decide they really just can't do anything about this. So Houston moving back to ref mode then. Still one PC, right? And Sekai Jin's been on 2 base this whole time with that production upgrade, so... Not to mention, he's not even behind on artifact extraction. He's got one out already. At this point, things start looking a little bit desperate for Sekai Jin, I would say. Or for Houston, that is. Because not only... Whoa, excuse me. Not only did he not do any damage to Sekai Jin at all, I mean, he hasn't killed any units, but arguably Sekai Jin's done more damage to him killing that one skim. He has, you know, he has things tied up on the artifact department, of course. His upgrades are much superior, so it's not like these skims are going to gain field control back anytime soon. And indeed, one of them kind of dying for nothing here is Houston realizes he needs to pull back. It's just, it's not clear he's ever actually going to be able to hold this 2 base. And Sekai Jin with no tech here, this is kind of the silver lining of this truly dark cloud hanging over Houston's head here. But, this is going to be real tough. We do have Assault Jet Fab started up here so that Houston can maybe get some Assault Jets to deal with these LAVs, but I think his real problem is not having enough production lines. He needs to get a second PC out. It's really essential for Galzian in general. Well, I mean, Conif is not Galzian, but they're similar, right? So, Sekai Jin with the sick guard order. You like to see it, kind of. But he's just trying to keep these guys healed up, so... I think better to do, though, is to grab all of them and then, like, take the one guy who's injured. Or you can say, grab all of them and then cut out all the guys who are injured and then put them on Group 2 again, right? I mean, I keep my StarCraft in Group 2 anyway, but not like everyone does that. But, you know, you keep the... Whoa. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so this would be a moment, right? You slice out all the guys who are injured, put them on Group 2, and then take the whole ball, move it back, and then take Group 2 back into the front line. Just kind of a nice micro tip to get these injured guys back into full health without having to take the entire ball out of service. That's with armor too, by the way. And these LAVs really get donked by that. It's kind of crazy. Damage 2, teching for Sekai Jin, no? So he's gonna have... Oh, excuse me. Oh, I must be more tired than I thought. He's gonna have full upgrades on these LAVs here. Houston, though, teching the Siege Cruiser Fab. Actually, I've got to say, the Assault Ships, they can work here if you get enough of them, but my problem that I had with that idea is he's only got one PC. He's never going to be able to get enough of them. But Siege Cruisers, you know, they're a pretty hard counter to strike, actually. Well, I should clarify, Conf Siege Cruisers, because obviously any other faction, they would really die, actually, pretty hard with these LAVs, but Conf Siege does not take damage from strike. Uh-oh, Houston really doesn't want to do this, though. Oh, jeez. I mean, the moment where he's finally, like, getting the tech that could maybe save him, that's not when he wants to feed in and lose all these sand skimmers. Although, some good missiles on the back end, he kind of makes that a positive trade. Quite a float from Houston. Again, he really needed that other PC, but at least he's got the production line of his carrier now. This is a time that he definitely can build that Conf Siege. He's got them. Oh, he doesn't have the RUs for it, though. Uh-oh. And now he's going to start that second PC, but that means the Conf Siege is going to be really, really late here. This is a little bit dangerous. Dangerous. Yeah, that's the thing, though, right? Rampa is definitely the coalition player is favored in this way by a large margin, right? He doesn't even have that third production upgrade, although he probably could afford it. Oh yeah, look how much he's starting to float now that he's on 3 base. But still, it's 2 lines to 1. I mean, definitely the coalition player wins if you continue the StrikeCraft battle, because eventually Sekai Jin's going to realize, like, what are the numbers here? 21 to 17. Like, he's gonna realize, wow, I have the upgrade advantage, I have the numbers advantage, let me just freaking kill him here. And it looks like this is the moment. Oh, he backs away, though. You know, I must say, I'm not a critic of Sekai Jin playing conservatively here, because something that he's done before is, you know, get into a good position, drive your units in, kind of feed them in, and then lose, right? This is probably much better than that. But he does have this window where his opponent can sort of be killed off. The thing is, the difference, right, I mentioned this about Houston at the very beginning. He should have come in here and tried to do a bit of damage. By the way, nice window for him. Maybe we'll get back to that point in a moment. He does actually have an opening onto the third base here. The question is, like, is Sekai Jin going to respond, or is he going to drive up here? But it looks like he will respond. He'll use that boost to try and get there as fast as he can. And Houston just going to absolutely murder these salvagers. Down they go. Obviously, these days in Jirachi Patch, you do have to realize the salvagers are probably a better prize than the support cruiser who holds the base, so better for Houston to get the salvagers than to get the support cruiser. He is a little stuck in now, though. He wants to get out this... Oh, no, 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 don't go back in! Oh, well, he's trapped the whole blob now. Okay, amazingly, Sekai Jin is giving him a window to get back in, and he's going to take it. Okay, he splits up the LAVs in a really bad way here, so Houston is going to drive back in and try and cut his way out of this scenario. He's not decisive enough, though. And the LAV blob is on top of him now, has the boost ready, so they're going to drive past him and try and get up onto that high ground. Uh-oh. Yeah, all of these skims are going to get slaughtered. Yikes. He had the salvagers for free, right? This is really good damage. Now you just back up and your ball stays alive. By the way, this is a lot of railguns. So the siege cruiser is definitely going to be able to... Oh no, don't just sit here in barrage. Oh. Well, he's dead. That's crippling. He lived? What? Oh, this is the luckiest siege cruiser in the world. Okay, that's really good for Houston. He really wants to make sure he gets this guy out of here so he doesn't die. Anyway, as I was saying before, in the opener I mentioned that Houston really needed to go in there when he had the advantage, because that advantage will fade. The difference is, when you play an aggressive opener, you set yourself up in a position where you have the ability to attack, right? That's your prerogative, but you kind of have to do it. Because if you don't, your opponent will just sort of passively get ahead. This is pretty nice, by the way, for Houston. The difference in this situation with Sekai Jin having all the LAVs, and obviously Khan of Siege, which is a nice counter, will come out eventually, is, yeah, there is a window where Sekai Jin can jump on top of him, but he doesn't even have to do it, because he's not going to fall behind when Khan of Siege comes out. He'll just maybe be unable to win in that way, but he's not falling behind if he's on 3 base and his opponent is on 2. So you want to kind of look to engineer these situations where even if you don't do anything, you kind of will win when you're playing eco games like this. That's why I'm not really a big critic of Sekai Jin having sat there with those LAVs, and sure enough, eventually he found a huge window to capitalize on them, right? And managed to get a massively good trade, so it worked out very well for him in the end. Houston does have this kind of siege, though, and he's going to have to leverage this in a big way. He's obviously not ahead here, I think that's clear. And indeed, assault cruisers are coming out as well, which you must realize Sekai Jin can build these a lot faster than the kind of siege from Houston. Here's the man himself. Because obviously he can kind of like triple produce, right? He did lose a lot of railguns, which was a little bit rough for him, but other than that, you know, he's probably looking okay here. Because the Khan of Siege and the assault cruisers have a more or less even fight, and he's just gonna have a lot more of them. I think what Houston needs to do then is build rails as well. Ah, but look at this, he's already done it. Yeah, this is exactly what he needs, is these heavy rails here. Yeah, this is game 1. Couple cruise missiles flomping into the carrier over here, but I can't take too much damage to that. Both these armies look pretty strong, I must say. But Sekai Jin's, I think I really just have to favor because of how big these LAV blobs are. He needs to be careful with the ACs, though. And yeah, sure enough, like he was talking about feeding in, he is gonna sort of set himself up for a bad situation where these railguns on the high ground can hit him as he's trying to retreat from the Khan of Siege. Oh, okay, I was like, are they really not going to kill him? No, they did get the last shot off there, so the one assault cruiser does die for nothing, which is very, very nice for Houston. He needs to be, like, obviously he doesn't want to lose units, right? But if he can trade assault cruisers for Khan of Siege, he's definitely winning. Houston's game plan here pretty much has to be don't lose anything. And, you know, this would not count as don't lose anything, I think. However, the missile is not really going to hit. So, Sekai Jin going to be very, very happy with this trade. Kind of a bit of reciprocity from what he suffered over here on the other side. Happens though, right? I mean, this is why I said I think I would favor the Coalition armies. This LAV blob is very big, very scary, and they've got full ups too. And Houston's going to try to match, so he does have damage too on the way. Get a tech to Honor Guards as well. I don't hate that either, actually. Now, you might think, like, well, he doesn't have the production lines to sustain this, right? But the thing is, Con of Siege plus Honor Guards is a really indomitable combo. So if he can get that out, I don't hate it at all. And he needs to do something, it's very much true, to get this third base back, because otherwise, you know, Sekai Jin can cover his extraction zone and his opponent's third base at the same time. Like I said before, it's a lot of ACs, right? It's always going to outnumber the Con of Siege numbers. And Houston doesn't have any rails, really. He's got one now, but looks like a second... No, never mind. Con of Siege here, going to start the engage. Knows that he needs to back away, which is true. He's got another one up on the high ground. I really love this positioning, but he's still going to lose this one. There's not really much he can do about it. And if Sekai Jin loses even like 3 assault cruisers to this, it's kind of an even trade in the sense of like production time. So honestly, he's going to be okay. Well, it looks like he may well lose 3 assault cruisers, but he's going to be kind of okay with that. In my mind, anyway. A-Game might be like crying blood right now, but in my mind, this is actually really totally fine for the Coalition player. Not to mention, we could eventually have artillery. That's probably what I would have gone for at this point. Although, of course, Sekai Jin is pretty low on RUs, so he does need to sort of... He does need to, you know, get some, like, LAVs out on the field or something. He's still got quite a few, but... He's almost at fleet capacity, too. Yeah, I don't know, maybe artillery just is too much of an RU cost for him to really invest into, but, maybe, honestly, the best thing for him to do is to fill up the rest of his fleet capacity with support cruisers, right? And just keep these railguns healthy. Because obviously, Houston is going to have a lot of sources of AoE here. Something that Sekai Jin is going to want to, you know, watch out for. Yeah, well, that's the power of 3 base, right? Uh-oh, Houston not responding to the attack missile barrage here. You're going to take a lot of damage in this kind of siege. This will kill off one of the ACs. Oh my gosh. Not even close. Ooh. That's really bad. I mean, definitely, like, to lose a Con of Siege for free like that, you know, there's no way that that can be sustainable, right? There's 6 of these things, you know? He's okay if he loses 1 or 2. And losing that Con of Siege, it doesn't get replaced very quickly at all. Here's an artifact picked up for Sekai Jin. Again, he's at 3, so I mean, if he picks this up, you know, we're on like match point that, or not match point, but game point that way. I do love me some Honor Guards here, but not quite going to be able to finish off that kill on the base runner. The ACs, I think, all using that overcharge ability to try and, like, get in here, but yeah, these railguns have definitely got them locked down. This is kind of why artillery is such a nice match for ACs, of course. Is when your opponent is holding a position like that your ACs can't push up onto, the artillery just barrages them off of it, but, not quite gonna be the way this game, as you can see. Would be nice if this carrier powered up its healing a little bit, get these guys back to full health just a little bit faster, but, oh dear. Big engage on the skims. He's kind of self-barraging a bit as Houston, but he wants to see if he can get up onto these railguns. But here's the problem, is that the follow-up... I mean, first off, you can't really do it because the ACs are going to block, but the follow-up is that these LAVs, which have been hiding on that other side of the map, kind of wisely, I would say, right? Because Sekai Jin is basically saying, you know, the best thing you can do with your skims is to try, like, a backstab or something like that. So he's just kind of kept them there this whole time. They come up and they threaten to exterminate the ball here, but they only just get a good trade, which is still nice for Sekai Jin, but I gotta say, he's really playing this pretty smart, actually. I say actually, that's kind of an insult. No, but I like how he's playing this, though. It's gonna end with attack with barrage, isn't it? Oh no, I can just see this going very badly for Houston. Of course, you gotta realize, like, that's one thing about ACs, is they have this huge alpha strike damage, right? Yeah, it's just gonna insta-finish him off. Well, I mean, to be fair, Houston was really feeling the pressure here for sure. Like I said, we're on game point with the artifacts here, and he does have to breach this position eventually. Yeah, misclick or not, I mean, I think this was more or less kind of being led up to the whole game. Still a bit unfortunate, though. Yeah, never underestimate the TAC missile barrage, man. Phoenix was a big fan of that. Well, you know, you always want to look at, like, the price of units and stuff when you're talking about, like, is this a good trade or not, but... Oh, what the heck? Here we go. You always want to think about the price of units when you're deciding if something's a good trade or not, right? But you need to think about, like, the production time, too. I mean, I think losing 2, maybe even 3 ACs for 1 Carnot Siege there is actually a good trade here, because you're going to get them back much before your opponent, so... The dog should be reduced. I don't know, I kind of like it, actually. It does sort of overlap the roles of a BC and an AC a little bit, where they've both got this big alpha strike damage, but I think that's a good thing, actually, in a lot of ways. Especially because one thing that I always used to hate about going for, like, assault ship builds or something like that, or, like, AVs, right, is your opponent shows up with his carrier, like, well, now you're just gonna die, because you can't do any damage to him, right? And ACs kind of would have a similar problem where, you know, they can't really do much. I mean, not like they do 0 damage against carriers, but definitely not an insignificant amount, but not a huge amount, right? But that TAC missile barrage allows them to threaten carriers a little bit more and say, hey, you can't just drive up onto my face, so... You know that's what ConF is about. Oh. SC first once again for SkyGM. And Houston retires the base burner this time, but he is going to go for some aggro, it seems. He has that Sandscreamer fab done. This will probably be Rails again. Let me check the resources tab here. But I can already see by the lineup of the salvagers he did 3-1 there. Generally, he focuses a little bit more on the skimmer count than I do when I'm doing this kind of build, so no surprises there, I would say, that he's going to beat a Rails just a little bit lower, or slower. Noises of cackling roommates intensify. LAV Fab now is started for SikIGN, and this is the moment where I always say you should be sending that probe out. What he wants to know that the rush is coming right now, because he can already start responding to it. But SikIGN generally a little bit slow with that probe. And obviously when you see the PC out here, you know what's going on. You don't have to shadow it. You can bring that probe out immediately, try and keep it alive, and then head over here onto the carrier and check out the carrier and see what kind of tech he has. That'll give you a bit more, like, knowledge about what kind of opener is coming up. Oh, interesting. I must say, I actually hated that movie. I watched it more out of obligation than really enjoying it. Because otherwise your friends are going to be like, man, how can you hate on it without having seen it? Yeah, well, now I've seen it. I still hate it. That's just me, though. Production upgrade finishing for SikIGN. This is a very, very nice response to Rail Rush, of course. We saw this last game. He was able to hold out with it. He had his base burner at home that time. And I think that's the better thing to do. I mean, if Houston wants to, he can deny this artifact and then you kind of get nothing. Bozo hates fun. No, I just felt like it was just such a joyless movie, you know? Like, the first Avengers, right? I remember, I'm sitting there, like, we had it at home, it was on disc or something, I didn't watch it in theaters, but, like, 45 minutes into the movie, I was like, nothing's freaking happened, I just left, you know, I never finished that. It was like, you know when your friends get together for a party, and then you're like, so, what are we gonna do, right? And, like, no one really knows, and you just kind of, like, fizzle out and just sit there. That's Avengers. Yeah, I agree. This is what we saw last game, is that, you know, Rail Rush has this... It has, like, power spikes and power troughs that you gotta know, right? And one of them is when your opponent hasn't scouted the rush, he's gonna be slow to build up the defense here, right? Now's the time that you can, you know, really jump in there and start getting kills. To be fair, this is a pretty okay trade too, but you're going to enter a power trough once that production upgrade is done and he can outproduce you with his LAVs. So you really got to get something done in the meantime. And going for this heavy rail definitely feels a bit out of touch to me, right? Because he doesn't seem to realize what's going to happen as his opponent is going to build up a much bigger LAV blob than he has skims. He's going to be able to have the money for upgrades too, because he's still on 2 base here. And eventually, Sekai Jin is just going to be able to overrun here, and a heavy railgun is not going to stop him from doing it, so that's not the unit you want in this scenario. Not to mention, I've mentioned before, this is definitely the better spawn if you want to do a rail rush, because this ground is very conducive to it. I think actually, now that I think about things, you want a rail rush from here if you're going to be playing on that spawn, and then just attack the main rather than attacking over here, because these dunes are really not great for a rail rush at all. And I still think that this spawn is much better for it, but... Fleet cap upgrades coming up for Houston again. Still, he's not really close to building a second P. Well, actually, he's pretty close. Get the drop here. He could build one right now, but it needs to have been coming out a while ago, I think, is the real problem. You know, okay trade for Houston here, though, because obviously a lot of these LAVs are focused on his heavy, so he's going to be able to do some damage here, but still, 2 heavy railguns, this is not going to be able to do much against these LAVs. And again, this is a situation where Sekai Jin is okay with trading even a little bit poorly in terms of money, because in terms of production time, he's going to be much, much ahead if both of these blobs die entirely, let's say, right? And in fact, he's got like a whole bunch of dudes idle in the backline here, yeah. Once this shows up, I don't really know what Houston does. He's got the boost available, he uses it, and he's standing still. But still, he can kind of get the chase down here. And there's nothing left for Houston to defend with. And all of a sudden, all the skims are dead, right? What's this PC gonna do? That second PC timing is really important. This is probably like 4 minutes too late almost. Well, that'd be too fast. This is like 3 minutes too late on that second PC, and that's why he ends up dying here. Rail Rush is a hard build, guys, I would say. I mean, obviously, when it like is too strong in the meta, it'll look really oppressive, but even then it's hard to pull off, you know what I mean? But this is definitely just not quite the way to do it. Yeah, but that's the thing. Okay at Rail Rush means like 50% you win, 50% you die horribly, right? So, I agree. Well, in that case, Sekai Jin can be pretty happy to take the 2-0 here, as that Khan of Carry does explode into a cloud of sparkling smoke. And we will move on to another replay, but thanks for watching.